This is Play Incorporated. That's just a sign. That's Play Incorporated, their headquarters and the birthplace of your Trinity. Very exciting day to be here. Inside, they have a Trinity hooked up ready for your introduction. So let's go meet some of the founders of Play Incorporated and the creators of the Trinity. In fact, Kiki's in there waiting for us now. You know how I know? Because I pretty much read ahead in the script. Oh, by the way, my name is Marcus Allen. I'm just some guy working for Scale, hosting the show so we can meet the Trinity. It's very cool. Come on. Kiki?
Hi.
Look, it's Kiki Stockhammer, TV's Kiki Stockhammer right here. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Mark?
Trinity's the word. That's what we're here for. We're all very excited about it. So what's the deal?
Well, we have a whole system set up, and we're going to meet some of the other co-founders and the people behind Trinity and Play Incorporated. And you know what? First, we have to make sure that you get a badge.
Okay. Because I'm going deep into the lair of Play
right.
TV.
Absolutely.
Top secret stuff.
That's right. And you know what? Let's just go to the Sci-Fi Museum.
Let's do it. Hey, why don't you need a badge?
Well, you know, I'm one of the owners.
Oh.
So this is it.
Very cool. The Play Museum of Science Fiction. I've heard about it. It's internationally known and recognized, and I'm sitting right here in the middle of it.
That's right. You know, Paul Montgomery and Mike Moore essentially said, you know, behind every high-tech company, there's a bunch of sci-fi zealots. And instead of just being zealots, we decided to show, you know, we're fanatics. So we just put this entire place together. It's
Well,
pretty
that's very cool. A little tour later on would be in order, I think?
Sure. Be great.
It's a little distracting. I've got a Yoda over my shoulder. And Yoda reminds me of my grandfather.
May the Force be with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. He looks just like my grandfather. My grandfather wasn't short, he wasn't green, but the ear hair, exactly like that. So forget about that. We have our Trinity.
That's right.
Located right behind us.
That's
we have
right.
the software loaded in. And
Right.
tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, well, basically, Trinity allows you to do live production, post-production, all the graphics necessary. So one of the most important parts of doing video production is live production. And we are going to go straight into a switcher tour.
Where do we get started? What are the
Okay.
tools we need?
So essentially, this is the main switcher interface, and the three rows down at the bottom of the screen happen to be three buses that we have. We have the key bus, which you're seeing right here. We have program bus, which you see the number 2 highlighted.
Right.
And you'll also notice there's 2 little monitors on the screen, right? The one that says program underneath it, well, guess what? That's camera 2.
Okay.
Then on the preview bus, we have number 1 highlighted, and again, it correlates directly with the little monitor on the screen for the preview.
It really is a TV studio in
That's
a box.
right,
Everything
that's
you
right.
need. The switcher exactly the same as you would see.
Right, so we actually have 2 live cameras, and you can also see where FS is. If I just click on those, you can also see how we have 2 frame stores loaded up.
I see.
So we can easily load up frame stores, which you'll find up here in this bin up on our right.
And later on, you'll show us how to get more frame stores in there?
That's right, and over here to the left, we have all of our effects. So we'll move over here now to the area in which you're going to actually load up the different types of effects.
Mix, FX, and DSK?
That's correct. These are basically controls that allow you to do a mix, and if we just want to see what a mix is, you can see it's highlighted. So if we hit auto, hey, it's a cool dissolve, right?
Dissolve.
Right, so I can manually control this effect just by using my T-bar and stopping it halfway, like you're seeing here. And I can also instantly cut, right? So you're very easily seeing how we can do the 2 most common types of effects.
What about digital video effects?
Well, of course, that's what makes Trinity really cool. So again, direct your attention up here to one of the bins. I can either double click on this effect, or I can simply push down on my left mouse button and drag it over to the effects bin, and it's loaded up.
Now, the little green line, what does that represent?
That means it's saying it's actively loading right now.
Oh, okay.
Right? So again, we'll just take a look at another effect. We'll this time double click on it. So I'm double clicking on it. You notice that the effect highlights in yellow. It's loading the effect up, and now we can actually do our cool page peel.
So you can drag and click or double click.
That's right.
And which do you prefer?
I'm a double clicker myself, personally.
I thought, didn't I nail it? I said that about her, didn't I? I did.
So let's take a look at some of the other types of effects. We have organic effects, and not all of our effects are transitions like you were seeing with the digital video effects. This is an actual overlay effect, and notice how the DSK just loaded up.
Oh,
right?
I see.
We're using the downstream key to overlay this fire effect. Now I can use the stop button over here to actually turn it off.
It's a good thing, because we don't know if that blouse is flame retardant, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
We'll just take a look at some other type of effects. So this is one of the famous Trinity effects. This is our rotating cube effect, where we're rotating a 3D object of a cube. We've mapped live video onto it, and now for the first time we're going to see real-time reflections
It's revolutionary, kind of a signature Trinity effect.
That's right. So here we're seeing the real-time reflection on the surface of the water.
How do you change the source that's going to it?
Okay, good question. So let's go back down to the program bus, and again, I can instantly click on any of my camera sources. I just switched it to camera 2. Again, I can go back to camera 1, or I can bring up a frame store. So you can see Trinity is really smart. It can instantly bring up whatever it needs to. Now you'll notice this is a looping effect. How do we turn this off? You can either hit auto, which will just turn it off, or I could also again hit stop if I chose to.
Okay.
Right? Now this is another interesting thing. If I right mouse click on top of the effect that I have loaded into the effects area, you'll notice that it brings up a little properties bin. Right? I can say unload all effects, or I can hit properties. This is very important. Throughout Trinity, when you click down on your right mouse button, it will bring up a pop-up window for your properties that you can always select.
Okay.
This is true for the switcher and all the other areas. Let's take a look at some other things you can do. How about some really cool real-time animating graphics that we created in Panimation? So I double-clicked on the effect. It's loading into the DSK again. I hit auto, and good evening, this is Kiki Stockhammer with World News Tonight.
Ooh, that gave me chills. That's amazing.
So you can be your own CNN if you want to, right? With all these cool kind of flashy graphics.
Pretty much the fulfillment of my childhood. I wanted to also ask you, now later you're going to show us how to customize these.
Yes.
I mean, if we want to bring that up with
absolutely.
our own titles, graphics, that sort of thing.
Let's just show a title real quick. Obviously, we just did a cool World News Tonight graphic. What about if we want to find out who the person is, right? You want to do a lower third. Here's a good example of the U.S. World Report, right, with an animating graphic. Again, you can simply hit auto to take that away. And again, as you brought up, what if we wanted to do a wipe, let's say, right? I've just directly loaded in a wipe into my effects bin, and I'm going to actually hit auto once, so I left mouse click.
Oh, that was slick.
Right? Cool little wipe.
Now, what if I want to change something about it? Make it fuzzier, make it softer?
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my T-bar and stop it right in the middle of an effect. And I'm going to right mouse click on the effects icon here and bring up my properties. Click on properties, and now I can actually change the softness of the actual wipe just by clicking in this little area called softness, and it's a numeric keypad. If I left mouse click and just move up, you can see how I have it at 60. So you'll notice the edging here is a lot softer. I can pull it all the way down so that it's a complete hard edge. You notice that change there from hard edge all the way to a soft edge. So you can instantly go in and make little changes there very easily.
So what about virtual sets? I think everybody that's seen Trinity, has heard about it, has read the manual, or even seen a demonstration before, wants to do the virtual sets.
Right.
Because that's the new age of Hollywood.
Yes.
You know Babylon 5?
Yes.
They're not really in space. So maybe you could show us how to do that.
You got it. So I just double-clicked on one of the effects, and again, you can create these type of sets using Panimation or Personal Effects. There's tools within Trinity that will help you do this.
Otherwise, we'll see these Pycons that you just...
That's right. You have a library, actually, of lots of different types of virtual sets. And here you actually have a virtual set of a television sitting on top of a tabletop. And again, all the real-time reflections on the surface of the tabletop, in the teapot, in the vase, all in real time.
Yeah, what's that little contraption down at the bottom of the table that I see?
Oh, well, you know, that's our snappy video snapshot, just in case.
Don't miss anything, do you?
Okay, so something else that we can move on to is anytime you want to unload these two areas, again, right mouse click on top of it, hit properties or unload current effect, which I just did, and it's all clean slate. Now, if we move directly to the right, you'll see how it says live, freeze, and strobe. It's got live on now because it's a live camera.
Right.
But what if I decided to instantly just click on this little freeze icon? Well, I just looked right into the camera, and instantly I grabbed an actual frame store, right? So now once I've loaded it in, if I just simply click on it and I keep my left mouse pressed down and I drag it into the bin, everything's saved. All the information, everything is done.
Now that still is stored forever.
That's right. It's stored there forever, and I'll be able to bring it up in Panimation and Tidal Wave, wherever. And the other thing is, if I right mouse click on that actual frame store again, I can go into the properties, I can rename it, I can actually give it a text title if I wanted to. I could put it in a new folder, I could delete it. So being able to right mouse click is very important. Here again, you can see the file properties.
And that'll follow us around no matter what application we're using. Right mouse click to get the properties.
That's correct.
Okay.
So now we have freeze on. I want to be able to go back to my live camera. I just hit live and boom, there you are. You're back live.
Outstanding.
So the last thing I just kind of want to cover here is when you're utilizing your bins, you see you have a slider bar here to your right. You can move up and down. Also, you have the bin properties. By hitting parent, you can go to different areas. By constantly hitting home, it always takes you back to your default bin that you have set up. And your default bins will basically be your effects bin and your still store bin.
Okay.
But you can also save, you know, how you have your bins set up in a certain way. We also directly up above here can see the actual file properties panel, right, where it's D:/Trinity bins effects sampler, right? This is how we can actually go in and find, if we want to find one specific type of thing, you can instantly go to the file properties area. And last but not least, here's the keyer. Just by clicking on my left mouse, I just brought up the property panel for the keyer where I could adjust my luminance or chroma key level if I wanted to. And then directly over here to the right of that, I have Predator, Panimation, Tidal Wave. In other words, I have all the other different applications. And just by clicking once with my left mouse, we could go into any of those apps.
So easy access to all the applications, just one click and you're there.
That's right, you got it.
All right, well I want to know more about the other applications and what they do, but it just dawned on me, we're in the coolest sci-fi museum in the history of sci-fi museums.
Well, I tell you what, why don't I give you a tour?
You'll show me?
You got it.
Including Yoda?
Yes.
With the ear hair?
Yes.
Let's go.
Okay. So this is Yoda.
Very cool. I've never seen him up close like
Isn't
this.
it groovy? The amount of detail, you know, with his ear fur and the whole thing is pretty cool.
He needs to exfoliate too.
Well, you know, the other thing is, I don't know, Darth's suit is really cool. I find myself kind of touching his outfit every
Do you do
once
that
in
a lot?
Well, it's cool. You feel it. It's puffy.
Ooh, puffy. You're not my father, because my father wouldn't look that good in those pants. This is cool.
This is our Star Trek Next Generation area. This is really where you feel like a kid in a candy store. It's like these props just kind of kill you dead. This is a very rare one, which is, of course, it's a tricorder that lights up. And, of course, they'd be going, you know, checking you out.
Did they actually make the sounds themselves like that?
No, but, you know, this is where you have the imagination, right?
Pardon me for drooling on your tricorder. That's awesome.
Of course, something like Worf's phaser, pretty cool as well.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
What would happen if I just did that? Like
nothing, nothing.
Because it's a prop?
It's a prop, that's right. We need Trinity to create that cool
Cool.
effect.
What else?
Here's a Dalek from the Doctor Who show.
Cool.
And, of course, this is our homage to Back to the Future.
Oh, wow. This is the real deal. These were really used?
Yep.
Michael J. Fox actually stood on that?
That's correct. And,
Awesome.
you know, of course, this is also the Mr. Fusion that was on the back of the DeLorean where Doc was stuffing it full of stuff to make the DeLorean go.
Oh, cool. You know, talking about movies like this, I'm thinking about special effects, so I want to get back to the Trinity and do some of those cool effects.
Okay.
That's my segue.
Okay. Well, we should go find Daniel then.
Let's go.
Woohoo! Well, you know, this is where you're going to find all of our artists and designers. This is the area where they're creating everything from the visual effects in Trinity to snappy brochures to all the cool stuff that, you know, we create.
This is
Packaging.
unbelievable. People actually work here?
Absolutely right.
You're working?
Oh, yeah.
They work here. You people are freaks. I mean that in a good way, though.
Well, let's go bug Daniel. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Keith.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great.
So we were hoping that you could give us a demo of Panimation.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's go do it.
Cool.
Hey, wait a minute, you guys. Daniel, is that an Emmy?
Yeah, it is.
Is it yours?
Yeah.
Can I touch it?
No.
Mark, come on.
All right, mister, I got a cool Emmy in my office. Let's get right into Panimation. Now, this is what all the buzz is about on the street. Everybody's talking about Panimation.
Right.
It's the next level of paint and animation programs, new architecture. What is it, and how does it apply to the real world? How will we use it?
Okay, well, first thing you should understand about Panimation is that this was really designed to make television. And I know there's a lot of paint programs out there that are kind of designed around print, but we really had television in mind and the real-timeness that television needs to be created in when we worked on on Panimation. So first thing, let me orient you to the interface a little bit here. What you'll see is very much like you saw in the switcher. You'll see bins that are in here. The bins contain content. Right here we have what we call strokes. And strokes are, well, I guess the technical term is that they're objects. Each one of these has properties, and there's airbrush and all these kinds of things that are included with the system. And of course you can make your own. We have still stores or images or projects also in the lower bin here. We have a control panel and we have a workspace. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this workspace to make it so that we're actually painting over live television. This is another, yeah, this is another really great unique feature in Panimation since it's tied into the Trinity hardware. I'll click Video, Alpha, and make sure that we're queued up on my source here, and which we are, and go ahead and start painting. So what I'm going to try to do, I'll show you how to do something you'd use all the time, which is like a lower third. And I've clicked on the lower third stroke here with my left button, and I'm going to drag this out. And you can see as I'm actually sizing it as I drag it out.
And if you were doing this over live video, which you are, it's nice because you can make it relative to your subject.
Absolutely. So if I want to position it up a little bit, you know, and move it around, I can do that. Any element that I have on the screen here, sorry for interrupting you, can be done just exactly the same way. So I'm actually dragging the planet Earth out there. I'm going to go in, and now I'll show you how to do something really interesting with it, which is to change these things once you've actually painted them. Usually in programs you can't do that, but with Panimation, since it's all objects, I can change the transparency. Again, how I got here is I right mouse button clicked on the Earth object, chose properties, and now I'm changing the transparency in real time. And again, you can see that changing over the live video to get it just right.
Now what if you wanted to save this later?
Well, there's a couple of easy ways of doing it. For example, if I just want to save this object and remember exactly where it was located, all I have to do is right mouse button click it and drag it into the bin, and there you are. And I'll do the same thing actually with this object right here, which is the lower third. And so now if I undo, which of course you can do at any time, of those objects, I can double click and it remembers not only where it was placed, but all of its settings, its transparency, and all of those things as well.
All right, that's very cool, but let's say I work in a TV news environment where I have to do things day in and day out. How could this simplify that?
Well, I think one of the great things about the system is, as I showed you how you can save where strokes are located and essentially have a setup, something done previously that you get right back to. I'll show that with the weather map right here. This would be a typical graphic that you'd use.
Now, is this object-oriented? Each one of these elements stands alone?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, each one of the elements on here I can move around. So 5-day forecast, I can move that if I want to position that a little bit. But what this is really great for is if I want to set the forecast, we have our art director essentially has created all these elements. And so if I don't know too much about painting, I can go in and say, you know what, on that first day, it's a little bit cloudy that first day. Maybe actually a little bit of sun and comes partially cloudy there. On the second day, it's going to be raining. That's on Tuesday. A little more sun here. Maybe just a touch more clouds on Wednesday, and etc. And just continue to build up my graphics simply by double-clicking. Remember, it knows exactly where those graphics are supposed to go, and I can go back at any time and change any one of those things.
Just to be nutty, could you combine sun with rain?
Absolutely. So let's go on our fourth day here.
What would you do? Just click
and click on that, and then on rain, and now it's partially rainy sunny.
You don't see that very often.
No. Well, and again, the really great thing about this is that when you're making live television, it has to be quick. You don't want to go and create all these elements and position them and all that kind of stuff. This will remember everything for you.
And to change the graphics, if you need to change the 44 to an overnight low of 35,
Absolutely.
No problem?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, these things can pull in and out as a group if you'd like to, or you can change each one individually as well.
Okay, so this would be cool for broadcast television, but what about post-production? If we wanted to make like a movie or something on a smaller scope, like a commercial, infomercial?
I have a good example, actually, I can show you, which is a commercial that we shot. And it served two purposes. One, it showed an idea for a future product that we wanted to do. And number two, it allowed us to really prove to ourselves that we could do, in a short period of time, with all the cool effects and all that, a network quality commercial.
And it uses Panimation or just all the aspects of Trinity?
Yeah, it actually uses all the aspects of Trinity to pull this thing off.
All right. Do you want to set it up? What do we call it?
It's called MindPhone.
All right. MindPhone. Take a look.
No, Ija, we don't have it. I don't understand. Why can't we meet halfway on this?
For thousands of years, mankind has sought to share his deepest feelings and ideas. But we've become slaves to our words, stopped from learning the wonders of science, or experiencing the inner beauty of art. Understanding always seems to be just beyond our grasp. Now there's a better way. Mind Phone, from the scientists at Play. It's a way to open your thoughts and share your dreams, a way to explore a new universe together, to touch another mind, and for the first time, truly understand.
I sense the delicate nature of your position. I can assure you, it won't be a problem.
Mind Phone. Now we can understand each other.
I understand your communication. I assure you that won't be a problem. Daniel, I get it. I can see it. I see what you're saying. I get the demo now.
That's not a working model, Mark.
What are you saying?
Take off the Mind Phone, Mark. It's not working.
It's just a piece of plastic?
It's just a piece of plastic.
You mean it gets better than this?
Yeah.
I want one. You can take 1-900 numbers to a next level with that thing. But forget about that. Let's talk about some of the cool effects in there. Like lighting. Was that post-production or done on the scene?
No, actually, that was done in post. And there's one scene actually. It's a great example of that, and that's when the hands are touching. And I have that frame up, and I'll just go ahead and show you how that works by double-clicking on it here.
Okay.
And bringing it up. And then what I'll do is I'll use what we used in the making of the commercial to show it to you, which was a light and stroke. So I'm going to left mouse button click on my light and stroke, which is here in the bin, in the sampler bin, and just draw this stroke out like this. So you can see it kind of come in there. And what's neat about this too, before I actually show you how we did the effect, let me go in and do one of my favorite things, which is to right mouse button click on a stroke. Right mouse button clicks get you all over the place.
Changes all the properties.
Exactly. Allows you to change the properties or bring things to the front or push them to the back. I'm going to change the properties right now. And the first thing I'm going to do is, instead of making it do a lighten, I will change that lighten to, how about monochrome? And so instantly, I can switch what that stroke does.
Oh, very cool.
I can have it darken. I can put a gradient in there, all kinds of things. So actually, I'll change this to solid color here, and also turn off smoothing to show you how you can particleize these things as well. And maybe take the size down a little bit. And I can change both the X and Y size of this stroke. You can start to see the particles appear right here, and even scatter them out.
Oh, wow.
And so it's actually, these strokes become very, very powerful. You can basically turn any stroke into any other stroke just by manipulating these properties. But let's go back here. I'll undo that, and I'll go back and show you how we actually did this effect. So again, I'll paint the light in there, and all I need to do is right mouse button click on it again, tell it to animate. I'm going to animate its position. And let's set the time to be about, maybe about 2/3 through.
Up in the upper right-hand side, you move the timeline.
Exactly. So I'm moving the time forward. I'm positioning it right up here. And then I'm going to go to the end of the timeline, again, by left-clicking and dragging the timeline to the end.
Okay.
I'll position it down around here. And then if I back up, hit play, you'll see this stroke go through. So it's lightning all the way through the thing and following my motion path as well.
Very cool. Now, you did this on a frame store, but you could just as easily paint over live video or any other video source.
Yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to show some other projects as well, some things people have created, show just some more breadth of what this product can do.
Oh, that is amazing. So that's an introduction, anyway, to Panimation.
Right, I think it gives you a good overview of the product.
Pretty good start.
Yeah.
So can I take this home with me?
No, we'll be taking that from you. Right
How about your Emmy? Could I have your Emmy?
No, sorry.
Cool. Thanks for your time.
Oh,
anyway.
thank you.
Who needs an Emmy when you got a wall full of computers? This is nuts. It's great.
Isn't this cool? This is Mark Brandel's really awesome computer collection. What's really cool is that we grew up with all these computers.
Looks like they're all represented, too. You have a Sinclair ZX80, a Commodore VIC-20 with 5K of awesome computing power.
Hey, you guys messing with my computers?
Mark, we desperately need you to give a tidal wave demo.
Sure. Come on, let's go.
Great.
Okay, Mark, everyone describes Trinity as a TV studio in a box, and if that's true, you've got to have a built-in character generator. We got to do the rolls, the crawls, you know, the titles, lower thirds, that stuff, and it does it in a system called what?
Tidal wave.
And what does that mean?
Well, it's a little pun on the word title. And, well, never mind. Let's just look at the app.
Let's do it. All right.
Okay. It's pretty easy to operate. I'm just going to type a letter in here to get something up on the screen right away. So what we're just seeing is one letter down here at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to size it up real big just by using the sizing box. Above, up here, we have the toolbar, which is standard in all the Trinity apps, and over to the left, you have your two bins, your projects and your styles. What I'm going to do is actually just try a couple of different styles out on my letter A so we can see what it looks like. I'm just going to drop this blue A onto there, and it's now going to adopt that style in here and make it a big blue A.
Very cool.
Or I can drop in a kind of a high-tech looking A. We can see that all of these have transparent shadows on them. I'm moving my hands behind the shadows. You can see the sharp anti-aliased edges. So whatever style we have, whatever texture we put into it. In fact, what I'm going to do now is show you that we can actually put graphics right into the large letter here. So here I have an American flag popping into the text.
That's cool. It's not pretty, but it's cool.
Okay, it's not pretty. Let's put something in there that is pretty. Let's put in some gold texture. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and pick a different font. So I'm going to select one of my favorite broadcast fonts is Futura. We have a nice heavy weight here. So I'm going to select a Futura font.
Very nice.
And I'm just going to size the A down a little bit, and using the positioning bar down here, just position it right up in the center of the screen.
Now again, for both height and width, you're going in the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah, right here, so we can just size it diagonally, keeping the aspect ratio correct. Now what I'm going to do is drag in a background. Let's use the flag as a background element, actually. I'm going to double-click on it, and it's going to load in, and I'm going to select the flag graphic, so it's deselected the A. And now I have the same selection controls here on the flag. And I'm just going to size those down and position this. And I can move it up here in the corner or put it wherever I want to. So now we have a graphical element integrated with our text element. So it's pretty straightforward just to position stuff on the screen.
Okay, that's very cool. I've never seen a system where you could so easily incorporate titles and graphics together in an overlay. But what if I want to like move the titles, move the text?
That's easy also. What we can do is create a roll or a crawl. We move up to the page type here, and by clicking on the page type, we bring up this menu that allows us to choose different page types. Right now we're on overlay. I'm going to go to a roll. So what we can see is the text actually moving up the screen. Just by clicking auto, we can actually take a look at what that's going to be, and it's moving nicely up the page. I'm going to stop that here and select crawl just so we can take a quick look at that. And we can vary the page types without having to retype the text, and now we see our A flying right through the screen.
What about the speeds on that? Can you slow it down or speed it up?
Absolutely. In fact, what I'll do is I'm going to go here and just adjust the speed by sliding my mouse up and down. I'll make it quite a bit quicker. I'm going to vary the direction, make it travel the other way. So I'll click auto here. Now we're going to see it fly through real quick the other way. So it's pretty straightforward to do that kind of stuff. In fact, what I'll do now is I'm going to take our American flag out of here. I'm going to show you how we can change the properties of an item just by right-clicking on the selected text. I'm going to bring up item properties. So just like everywhere else in Trinity, right-clicking brings up the properties over here on the left. And this is where we can control things like the transparency. I'm going to make it very transparent now and bring its transparency back up. But what I want to do at this point is actually go down and look at the outline size. Right now it's just 1 pixel. I'm going to make it about 3 pixels. So I've made the outline a little bit bigger. And the reason I've done that is I want to take this nice gradient here from the bin and drop it over here into the outline properties box. And we're going to get this kind of 3D look. So what's cool about this is I can actually go, now that I've created my own style, and save it back in the bin, just like all of these guys, drop it in here, and I can delete this text on the screen, and anytime I want to, I can double click on the A, and that's going to put the style up here, and this box always shows you what the style you're about to be typing in, and I can just type in anything I want, like
that's
an
amazing.
M, which would be for Mark.
Okay, so you've shown us how we can make our own custom fonts, but what if we want to apply those in the real world, like with a lower third, that kind of stuff? Can you do that?
In the Trinity bins, when the users start up their Trinity, there's a bunch of examples, and these examples have been created not only to show you what it can do, but also to give you templates to work from, because any page that you create can be a template. So just by double-clicking here on this lower third graphic, it brings up the graphic onto the screen, and we can go in and actually select this, and I can put your name into it. So I'm going to type in Mark S. Allen. So we'll create a nice lower third title here. And then what I'm going to do is I can actually take this and save it. So it's as easy as going up here to page properties to save any CG. And I'm going to take that page property and drag and drop it right down into the bin. And it's going to save it as an overlay graphic. If I had set the settings here to a different style, it would save it as a still or whatever. In this case, it's an overlay. And now I can bring that up from the switcher, bring it up in Predator or any other application inside the Trinity. Now that you've seen how we can operate Tidal Wave, let me show you some examples of things that people have created inside Tidal Wave.
Oh, that is very cool. Now, you know I don't really do this stuff, but I feel like I could sit down and pretty much create a lower third like that.
Well, we just scratched the surface with Tidal Wave, but it's so much fun. You just climb in and create cool stuff and learn all about it.
Well, this is awesome. Thank you very much for the introduction. And oh, by the way, while I have you here, Mr. Wallow Computer Man, could you spare a VIC-20?
For you, Mark, sure.
All right, thank you very much. And can I have a hug?
No.
Okay, so I'm really digging it now, but I know I'm not going to leave Play Fulfilled unless I learn how to do my own thing. Customize my effects in there. Is it possible?
Absolutely. Personal effects. Let's go into Bermuda and talk to Steve Hartford.
That's Bermuda?
This is Bermuda.
Like the shorts?
No, like research and development.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, this is freaky. It's good, but this is freaky.
Well, you know, we invent actually a lot more here than just Trinity, of course. A lot of cool secret stuff.
Like that. I used to date her. I know it.
Well, like this. This is a cool networking system that we put together.
Analog.
Hey, Steve.
Hi. Hey, Ken. I'll talk to you and Ratboy later.
Hello.
Hey, so we were wondering if you could give us a cool personal effects demo?
Why, I'd love to.
Oh, well, great. Let's go.
All right, Steve, so what is PFX? Personal effects. I'm sorry, I got a little too hip for the room there for a second. Personal effects, what is it?
Personal effects is the part of Trinity which lets you make your own video effects from scratch.
And how do we begin?
Well, we begin by using this user interface right here. And what we've got here is basically similar to the other Trinity applications. The main part of the screen here is the workspace area. In PFX's case, what we're looking at is a yellow wireframe grid, which represents the video source that we're manipulating.
Anyone that's done 3D animation probably knows what this is.
Yeah, a lot of this is very simple and very similar to 3D, so people should be familiar with it who have used 3D. On the left side of the screen, we have two bins. These just have some objects and some effects that come with Trinity. And then at the top of the screen here, we have our standard toolbar, which has the commonly used commands that you use to kind of get around personal effects. So if we wanted to start, I'll actually load something that was done previously. This is a kind of a standard over-the-shoulder video effect. And if we look at the user interface and click on play, what we see is the wireframe view of how this effect is going to look. Now, this effect essentially has 3 keyframes. Here, again, on the toolbar, we can go to previous and next. If I go to there you see the one in the middle and the one at the beginning.
Okay.
So what the computer does is you define these few keyframes, and then the computer interpolates or creates the frames in between those frames using a nice curved path so it looks really nice. But in this case, if we wanted to modify this effect, instead of having a flat plane when it goes back, we can kind of tilt it and turn it a little bit in 3D. And then we go up here and click on test frame. Now what test frame does is it takes the effect at this moment in time and actually generates it as a Trinity effect and displays it on Trinity's output. Here you can see my camera is now the over the shoulder and it's been tilted back in 3D.
Gives you a preview.
Yeah, exactly. So just by making that one change now, we've changed this standard over the shoulder to be from just a square flat thing to kind of tilted back in 3D.
All right, that was pretty cool, but what about the kids at home that want to do something from scratch? Is it easy?
Yeah, I'll show you how it's done. Basically, all we have to do is new the scene to get rid of the existing effect, and then we're starting with our basic wireframe here, and you can just move it around. What I'll do is I'll use the pan and zoom controls to zoom back a little bit. Now this white rectangle here actually represents what the final video image will contain, and that allows us to take like this video rectangle and start it completely off the screen. Then what I'll do is I'll move about halfway through the effect with the timeline slider up here.
Okay.
And I'll position the video, say, right down here. And I'll go ahead and rotate it a little bit, say.
So you click and release each time.
Exactly. And then I'll go to the end of the effect and click on 1-to-1, which is essentially just normal full screen video.
Right.
Now we can see that there's this little path here in 3D. And that's the path that the video will take during the course of the effect. Again, if we click on play, we'll see the video spin around and follow that path. Now, say I wanted to see how the video was going to look at a particular frame. What I'll do is first I'll zoom back in so the video is full screen. And I'll go to the previous keyframe where the video is sitting here at the bottom. Then what I'll do is click on test frame. Now what test frame does is once you've generated this wireframe animation, you go and check certain frames of it. So for instance, here's a frame from midway through the effect. We can see the still image of Kiki down there. Once we're satisfied with how the effect looks at the various different positions, we'll go ahead and click on Make Effect, which goes through and creates every single frame of the effect, saves it to a file, and then that's the file that you can run from the switcher.
But the test frame gives you a nice real image video.
Right, yeah.
Sorry, I'm rambling.
That's okay. As it's going, you can just kind of check on how things go and make sure they're the way that you want them. Let me look at, let's look at a couple other things too here. An example of combining video with graphics. So here's our standard video plane. What I'll do is there's some 3D graphic files up here. Now these are ones that come with Trinity, but you can actually use most standard 3D file formats and just drag and drop that geometry right into Personal Effects. And then I tell the computer that I have, in addition to a warp, I have graphics in this. And how I do that is this Effect Properties panel. You can see here it says Effect Type. And what you basically do is set up what the different elements of the effect are. So by default, it has warp, which is the live video. I'll turn on graphics since I just dropped this star, which is a yellow star. And then here it's either a transition or an overlay. Now, the difference between the two is basically a transition starts with one video source and leaves you with a different one, while an overlay starts with one video source, typically overlays something on top of that, and then leaves you with the same video source. So this is a transition because we're bringing this video image in. So I'll leave it at transition. And then I have to turn on wipe, just because.
Just because you do.
Yes, you do.
Just remember to do that.
And then I'll click on test frame, and what will happen is it'll do a graphics pass for the star and a video pass for the video rectangle, and then it'll send that out to Trinity. And here we can see the live video image, and then up here we have the star, the yellow star.
Again, a nice real graphic test preview.
Exactly. So that's how you would add graphics with the video image.
All right, I dig the star. Graphics are cool, but what if we want to do other effects? Like, I don't know the name of it because I'm an idiot, but the one where, you know, like something where it waves, the video waves.
The video waves.
It does this.
Yes.
Like this.
We can even do that on the screen.
You don't want me to just sit here doing this? No? You're tired of this?
Yeah, well, you know.
Okay. All right, let's go back to this.
Okay, here we go. So back to Personal Effects. All you do is new to make the rectangle, you know, go back to your starting point. And then we'll do a simple procedural ripple through the video. So I'll just move the video back again with the mouse, and then rotate it in 3D a little bit, so it's edge on.
Okay.
And then what I'll do is select Object Properties just by right-clicking on the object, bring up Object Properties. Here in the upper left-hand corner is the Object panel. We can see here there's a Morph selection, which allows you to do a wave, a flag turn, a twist, or a page turn. What I'll do is I'll select Wave and leave all the default settings, and then just basically click on Test Frame. Here we see on the Trinity program out the actual effect. So as I move my hand, you can see there's a slight wave through that DVE plane.
See my hand doing the thing.
You could see just about anything in this plane.
Oh, very cool.
So that's how you make a wave.
Absolutely mind-boggling, all of the stuff that Trinity can do, and I know we haven't even scratched the surface. So, you know, before we do scratch the surface, let's go to the Trinity production line. As they roll along the assembly, Stefan Bouchard is there, and this is not for the squeamish because he's got a Trinity half naked. Stefan?
Well, thanks, Mark. Well, the key to understanding Trinity is understanding its architecture, so let's just dive into it. First thing we'll look at is basically the Trinity motherboard. The motherboard is basically 10-bit digital CCR601. This is the only thing that the Trinity system understands. So how do we get your video sources into it? Well, it's quite simple. At the back of the system here, we've got 8 input slots and 4 output slots. In these slots, we have what we call our I/O modules. What these cards do is they format convert from any world standard that exists here, whether it be composite, YC component, D1, FireWire, into that 10-bit signal that Trinity needs. So as the signal goes through these cards, it basically hits our router. The router is a digital router. It's a 9x8 router. And what its job is to route any of these video signal onto our bus itself. Now, before we explain the video processing slots, we'll explain the bus of Trinity. On the bus are 8 streams of video running through in real time because we have 8 inputs coming in. Now, with these 8 lines of video, we also have 2 channels of alpha. This allows you, when you're doing character generations and stuff, to see the shadows and all these different things. In addition, we have 1 priority bus, which enables us to do the layering and all that stuff when we're doing compositing. So, in these slots, we have video processing cards. And what these cards do is they suck up the data that's running on the bus to manipulate it in all kinds of ways. So if you have one video processing card, we get to see one video source at any given time. If you have two video processing cards, we get to see two sources at any given time. Therefore, if we have up to 8, we get to see actually 8 sources all at once on one screen. Now, depending on the type of card that we've got, will determine how we'll get to see the image. So a Framestore card allows us to see it full screen, where a Warp Engine card, which is a 3D DVE, allows us to see it squeezed in, rotated, with all kinds of DVE effects. So as these cards manipulated, we make our way to the switcher card. Now the switcher card is this long card here. Its job is to basically take all the video information on a pixel by pixel basis and to basically mix it down into an image that makes sense to the average human. Now on this same switcher card, we have our keyer, which is our luminance, matte, and chroma keyer. In addition, we also have a graphics engine. The graphics engine job is to, when you're doing CG paint and compositing and animation, it's basically allowing you to see it. Now, as we get through the switcher, we have our 4 downstream slots. In these slots, we could have different types of downstream cards, like a logo insertion card or other types of cards that we may develop at some point. Now, as we get past the downstream cards, we have basically our output cards. Now, these output cards are the same thing as the input cards, except they're backwards. Now, some of you may have a composite NYC master reference card, and on that card, this is where you would provide the sync or the reference to your system. Now, you may have a component card, and also it would have the master reference on it. Now here we've got our preview card. If you're using Trinity for live production and you need Tally Light support or GPI triggers, it's coming from the preview card, and this is also where you hook up your preview monitor. So how do you hook up DeX? Well, we have 4 RS422 machine control ports right here, and through breakout cables we can support an additional 12 devices on the coordinator card. So how do we hook up Trinity to a PC? Well, we have the coordinator card here, who's the brain of the Trinity system. In addition, there's a PCI card that the dealer has installed in your PC. Now, we hook up the Trinity to the PC via VideoNet, which is our own proprietary network communication protocol, where we can sustain up to 33 megabytes of information back and forth between Trinity and your PC. Now, how do we hook up sound to your system? Well, on the back panel here, we have our audio subsystem. It's 8 inputs, 2 outputs, 3-band parametric EQ, and this is where you will actually hook up the sound from your deck. So this is basically the overview of the Trinity system. Back to you guys.
Yep, there you go. That's the Trinity with its clothes back on. And thank you so much, Stéphane Bouchard, the pride of Canada there. I saw more of the Trinity just then than I've seen of my wife the last year.
Too much information.
Sorry about that. Probably more than you need to know. Anyway, we're looking at a new interface now. This is the Predator?
Yeah.
What does it do?
Predator is the linear and non-linear editing system that's included with Trinity.
Named after a Schwarzenegger movie. Why?
Because it was punny.
Oh, it's a pun. Oh, it's not a Schwarzenegger movie at all. It's punny.
Well, you see, there's the Predator, and then the A is an I, and then it's
That's more information than I needed to know.
Sorry.
So what do we do with it? It's an editing system plus?
Well, we edit, and I'll go through that. Basically, Stéphane just showed us how the cables were connected to Trinity for various devices. What you do after you hook up the cables is you go into the configure menu here and go to serial devices. That brings up this property panel on the left-hand side of the screen. And what we do here is there's ports from 1 to 4 all the way up to 13 to 16. And what I have here is 3 decks hooked up to the first 3 serial ports. So here I have port 1, and here is the device name. So if you click on Auto Config 422, what happens is Trinity goes out, tries to talk to the deck, and establish what kind of deck it is. Then if it finds it in its database of decks, it goes ahead and prints the name of the deck right there. If it doesn't, you can go ahead and bring up additional panels to have it actually profile the deck and figure out how to talk to that deck. Right to the right of that, there's video in and out, and this is where you tell Trinity where this deck is hooked up to Trinity. So for instance, for this deck, which is a Sony Betacam UVW 1600, it's a playback deck. So the playback from that deck is going into Trinity input number 6. These input numbers correspond to, of course, the input modules on the back of Trinity. Here in port 3, we have actually the UVW 1800, which is the record deck, and both its playback and record are hooked up to Trinity. So the output of Trinity, output number 9, is hooked up to the record in of the Betacam deck, and the playback from that record deck is also hooked up to Trinity in input module number 4. Now, hooking the record out back up to Trinity gives you essentially a recursive path, and that lets you actually watch the record tape on your Trinity program output. So that's
Great.
kind of a neat thing you can do if you have an extra input module.
And then you have to configure the audio as well?
Right. The audio connections are below that. And what we have here is essentially a grid where, again, on the left-hand side is the serial port number. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have two groups of controls, one for the audio ins and one for the audio outs of the decks. So for instance, these numbers here mean that for the device hooked up to port number 1, that's the Betacam playback deck, its audio in is hooked up to Trinity's number 3 input, and its audio number 2 is hooked up to Trinity's audio number 4 input. And then here we have the other playback deck hooked up to Trinity audio in 1 and 2. In terms of audio outputs, we have the record deck, which is on serial port number 3, being hooked up to the output from Trinity 1 and 2 going to the audio inputs on the deck 1 and 2. So that's how all the video and audio connections are configured. So you have to make sure that the things on this panel match the physical layout that Stefan just showed you.
All right, so when it's all hooked up and the configuring is done, how do you begin editing?
Well, what you do is you go to this main panel over here, and on recorder A, B, and C, you define which of the decks that you just configured is hooked up to which. So for instance, here on the A deck, I click the right mouse button, and then all of the decks that I've previously confined show up in a list. And in this case, I want the A deck, the A playback deck, to be the Sony Betacam 1600 that's hooked up to serial port number 1 on the Trinity. So once you've assigned those, then you can select that deck, click on play, and all the transport controls should work.
What are we watching?
What we're actually watching here is I'm going to be editing using some footage from a snappy video demo tape that we did with Kiki a while ago. So now that everything's configured, let's go ahead and mark a couple edits.
Okay.
What I'll do is I'll find the intro of this particular take. Looks like it's right about there. Now I'm showing Predator with tape deck sources here, doing just linear editing. But the Predator software supports both linear and nonlinear sources on the same timeline. So by adding one or more channels of Time Machine disk storage, you can have nonlinear video sources as well. Mark in.
Okay. Now could you enter in a time code as well if you wanted to?
Yeah, you could type it as well as mark it. We'll let her go for a while. And I marked the out right there.
Okay.
Now we see a little PyCon right here. You take this clip, and we can either store it independently in the bin, or we can just drag it right down here into the timeline. And now that clip is in our timeline. So before we go and lay this to the record tape, let's drag some black down. So that's matte black just sitting in the bin. It's just a color.
Okay.
And drag that out.
I would assume if you wanted white or any other color, you could do the same thing.
Yeah, actually, any of the color objects in any of the Trinity applications are shareable.
Oh,
so,
okay.
If this came from the switcher or Panimation or wherever.
Right.
So what I did is I dropped the black color into a second video track, and I overlapped the two video events. And I did that so that I could right-click here and say Create Dissolve. And essentially, we see this is a dissolve now from video source 2 to video source number 1. And that's the duration of it. So if I go ahead and click Auto Assemble, we'll put these two short pieces together. You'll see as you're using the Predator system that it's actually using all the different pieces of hardware in Trinity. For instance, it's using the matte generator and the switcher. It's using the dissolve unit. Because we've got all this real-time hardware inside of Trinity, you use that all when you're doing editing, so you never have to wait for things to render. We're almost done with this edit here.
It's laying it down to tape, did a nice dissolve, fade in.
Yeah, so now what we do is we can click on the record deck, go back to the beginning of the project here, and review it just to make sure that it's fine. So here's black, and dissolve in and the edit. Okay, so that looks like it's pretty good.
Okay.
One thing that I noticed was there was some extraneous audio during the matte black portion of the segment. We can get rid of that.
Okay.
What we'll do is click on the black color and select Clip Properties. Down here on the property panel now, we can see that what's being recorded on the record tape is just video. And for a matte color, that's normal. All it records is video. However, we want it to record audio 1 and audio 2 as well, because we want to get rid of the junk that's existing on the record tape right now. So I'll close that and reset our timeline for assembly and do an auto assemble. And now it'll go and actually erase that stuff. And our pre-roll, you see when it's actually going that this little record light will light up on the user interface to let you know that the insert's happening.
a picture into your PC, you simply point your camcorder at your subject, watch the preview monitor on your screen, and when you see the exact picture...
So that looks like it happened correctly. What we'll do now is we'll define a second edit. So I'll go to my B playback deck, and here I just have some footage from that same video of Kiki holding a Snappy. And I'll just grab some of this, so mark in, give it a couple seconds, and mark out. Then I'll take that clip and drag and drop it into my second video track. Now I can either do a cut here, just by aligning these two events together, or I can do the same thing, where I overlap them a little bit and then create a dissolve. Beyond doing a dissolve, however, we can do any of the real-time effects that come with Trinity. So for instance, I'll just take one of these flying video planes and drag and drop that. What I'll do is, this is a fixed length effect, so I have to make sure that the video footage actually matches the duration of the effect. I'll zoom in a little bit so I can get a handle on this. And you see that as I'm dragging, it's a blue alignment pointer. It actually turns yellow when I'm right on the edge of that effect.
Which you have to be for this effect.
Right, exactly. Or you'd have extraneous video footage at the end of the effect.
Great, so it's easy to align clips that way.
Yeah, exactly. Now what we'll do is I'll zoom back out and we'll perform this series of video events, but now instead I have a warp there instead of a simple dissolve. Click on Auto Assemble, and it'll queue up all the decks. Basically what we're doing is, we're just using Trinity's live capabilities, so it's really easy to like change effects and just get an instant idea of what it's going to look like.
Trinity's doing all the work.
Right. And here we're coming in. Now the record light's lit.
To bring a picture
Here's the first edit.
Point your camcorder at your subject. Watch the preview monitor on your screen.
And up comes the warp. There it is, revealing the second clip off the second playback deck. So that was just an A/B roll edit.
Very nice.
Now, in addition to this, because Trinity also has a graphics layer, on top of all that, we could put another layer. And what I'll do is I'll just go down here and find a rotating blaster space gun and simply drag that out. This is a looping animation, so I can drag it out to however long I want it to be.
If you wanted to go for hours, you can drag it out.
You could. And we'll reassemble this.
Now, this is unique to the Trinity. Other editors won't give you this layering capability.
Well, yeah. I mean, because we have all that real-time hardware there, we can do stuff like this very easily. So there's the gun.
It'll stay there through the warp.
There's the warp under it. And then it dissolves out.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's how you would do a downstream graphics over an existing effect.
What about audio? If I want to go in and change the audio, I didn't record it hot enough, or it's too hot.
Right. The audio. Well, what you do is I can select this video clip here, and then you see there's a plus sign in that track. If I click on that, it opens up the child tracks, which in this case are the audio tracks. I can further tell what's going on here by clicking on Clip Properties. It brings up a property panel, and again, we see here there's what's being recorded on the record tape is video, audio 1, and audio 2. If I go then to from Clip Main to Clip Audio Properties, we can see here that I'm using the source from audio 1 and audio 2. Now, if you had a tape deck that actually had, say, 4 channels of audio recorded on it, you could actually hook up all 4 and mix those down to one stereo pair that would then go onto the record deck. And what we have here is just a mini version of the audio mixer that's on the switcher with the EQs and the panning and the volumes and so on.
Right.
At the bottom here, we have a setting called Animate. And what that lets us do is instead of having a fixed volume for the clip, we can animate the volume over time. So what I'll do is go back to the timeline here and show you how that's done. Here is audio 1 and audio 2 for this video clip. If I, again, click on the plus sign, we can see it opens up and we have a little graph here that shows the level for both audio tracks. Now, it's a solid fixed level. What I can do is right-click on that track and select Animate Level for both tracks. And then I can go in and add keyframes and drag them around as I would in a normal timeline. But what I can also do is there's some presets here. So for instance, if I just want to add a fade out at the end, I can just select that menu item and it adds a fade out. Okay, so I've added a fade out. Let me close these back up here. The next time I assemble that, the audio will fade out right at the end. What I can also do is other things to the clip. So again, if I bring up Clip Properties, we can go here to the Main Audio Clip panel. Here's Clip Main. And we can see that there's another setting here called Audio Edit Lock. And what this does is, by default, when you create a clip, the audio will match the video exactly. So as you can see here in the timeline, as I'm dragging this pointer around, both the audio and the video clips are being trimmed appropriately. What I can do, though, is if I turn this off, all of a sudden I have little handles here on the audio bars, and I can drag the audio ins and outs separately from the video ins and outs. So if you're doing a type of edit that requires that, then that's how you do it. Turn that off for a second. Other things I can do is I can add a strobe. So here is video run. I can change that to be strobe, and we can change the rate here from, say, 2 to 6. This is the number of fields which will elapse before Trinity actually grabs a new freeze. A strobe being just a series of freezes. And let's really mess it up. I'll go into the color correction settings, and let's take the color saturation all the way out. Here we have all the same color correction controls that you would have in the switcher as well.
Oh, that's great. So if you need to adjust because you underexpose something, shot something with too much light, you could fix that.
Right, exactly. You can either fix things that are wrong with the video signal, or you can actually do things like this, which is just kind of a special effect.
Just messing it up.
Right, exactly. So to recap here, what I've done is I've added an audio fade out at the end. I've changed the color correction settings so the whole clip's monochrome, and I've added a strobe effect. Now let's go and click on Auto Assemble and have Trinity redo that. One thing I should point out is that Auto Assemble on the Trinity editing system is actually pretty smart. On most editors, most linear editors, it would just go and do one event at a time. But on Trinity, it'll do as many as it can all at once. So here's the black and white video, strobed, going out with the DVD.
Very nice.
Yeah, exactly. So I can go on the record deck, scrub back a little bit, and as I play that sequence, you can see now we're watching the record tape with the strobe, the black and white, and the overlay. And so those are the basics of editing on Trinity.
Very cool, and very easy, too. And Steve, this is a very happy moment for you because I'm leaving. Pretty much concludes the Trinity overview, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Mark.
I have to find Kiki now because I have to turn in my play badge. Hey, just by the way, what if I were to come back here in the museum without my badge? What happens then, huh?
Oh, I'd rather not talk about that.
Maybe I'll squeeze it out of Kiki. Well, there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know the Trinity a little bit better, as well as the cool people who created it here at Play Incorporated. In fact, speaking of Play Incorporated, take a look around. See this cafe? All simulated deep in the heart of Play Incorporated because they wanted a cool place to eat. Speaking of cool people, look who it is. The co-CEOs of Play Incorporated, Michael Moore and Paul Montgomery. Hi, guys.
Hi, Mark. I hope you had a good time today.
Oh, it was awesome. I've spent the last hour with the Trinity, and I'm in love.
It was a great team effort by a lot of talented people.
Oh, it's amazing. Please thank them all for me because it's the most unusual and incredible product I've ever seen. And Kiki, what can I say?
Hey, I'll show you out.
But I don't really have to go yet.
Well, you kind of do. I'm going to take your badge and I'll escort you out now.
I don't have to go. There are more things to see.
Now it's time to
I've got time.
Good night.
We haven't seen Frontierland.
Good night.
Okay, all right, I think I'm starting to get it. Track with me, this is good. What you're trying to say is, it's time for me to go.
Yes!
All right, I'll go. Before I leave, though, is there anything you would like to say?
I had a great time.
Me too.
And, of course, Trinity was designed so that all of you guys could make really awesome, cool television. So please send us your tapes, your documentaries, your neat TV shows, whatever it is you guys are working on.
Yeah, I'll send you my tape. I've got some smut TV that suddenly is going to look very glossy thanks to Trinity.
Don't listen to this guy.
No, it's true. Listen, they made the Trinity. You go out and make something very cool. Don't let them down. See you.